really need to compare notes and decide on their own strategy as to how they will fight back against the maximum pressure from the United States. Both China and India need to defend free trade and need to continue to promote our economic development. And while China has already uplifted 800 million people or so out of abject poverty, India needs to continue to grow to uplift hundreds of millions of people from poverty and achieve a higher level of modernization, industrialization, urbanization, you name it. No one should stop India from its economic growth. And in that sense, I think the summit meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping will be very timely and will also give the right signal to the rest of the world.
嗨，欢迎来到果果的新闻频道。本期重要内容就在中美关系紧张加剧的当下，上合组织峰会成了全球瞩目的焦点。您知道吗？中国智库专家高志凯提出了一个震撼概念：中国和印度是全世界唯二的超人口大国，各自肩负着10亿人的命运。面对美国的极限施压，这两个巨人必须联手反击。但也直言，印度如果继续拒绝中国的一带一路，可能会在历史进程中被冷落。这究竟是合作共赢序曲，还是地缘博弈的升级？中印领导人在这次关键握手，背后信号绝不简单，请看前方发来的报道。
Joining us is Victor Gao, Chair Professor Soochow University and one of China's foremost voices on global affairs. Now with Beijing hosting the SCO summit, he'll give us China's view on the grouping, its goals and what this moment means as tensions with Washington rise. Victor, thank you for joining us here on NDTV 24/7. How do you read the significance of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping meeting at the SCO, particularly when both leaders are navigating tense relations with Washington?
Thank you very much for having me. For Prime Minister Modi of India to personally come to attend the SCO summit and for his meeting with Chinese leader, the Chinese President Xi Jinping, are both very important occasions. I would say China and India being the only two superpopulations in the world, meaning each having a population above 1 billion people, they have tremendous amount of responsibilities for themselves, for each other, and for mankind as a whole. Now, in the world of today, when both China and the Indian government and the people are facing maximum pressure from President Trump and his government in this wrongful tariff war against both China and India. China and India really need to compare notes and decide on their own strategy as to how they will fight back against the maximum pressure from the United States. Both China and India need to defend free trade and need to continue to promote our economic development. And while China has already uplifted 800 million people or so out of abject poverty, India needs to continue to grow to uplift hundreds of millions of people from poverty and achieve a higher level of modernization, industrialization, urbanization, you name it. No one should stop India from its economic growth. And in that sense, I think the summit meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping will be very timely and will also give the right signal to the rest of the world, including the United States, that these two largest populations in the world, the superpopulations, as I call, need to coordinate their acts together to fight off maximum pressure from one dominant power. And we both need to defend free trade for mutual benefit, as well as for the benefit of mankind, as well as for the benefit of the overwhelming majority.
Given all that's happening with India and the US, China and the US as well, do you expect a possible revival of the long dormant Russia, India, China, the RIC trilateral grouping on the sidelines of the summit?
Well, China and Russia have very good relations. We share a very long border, which is not armed, and the two countries respect each other, deal with each other as equals. I understand India and Russia relations also has decades of friendship and cooperation behind it. and India really respects Russia and vice versa. So I would not be surprised if the three leaders of China, Russia, and India meet somewhere at the sideline of the SCO summit, whether they will decide to conduct their foreign affairs in a trilateral way or more on a bilateral basis. We still need to wait and see.
But from India's perspective, Victor, critics say the SCO is increasingly a China-Russia club, where New Delhi's voice is more symbolic than substantive. How would you respond to that criticism?
I completely disagree, because one of the beauties of the SCO is consensus, meaning each member state has a veto power. And sometimes people say this is too much, this reduces the efficiency. But I think the member states of SCO want to do this on a consensus basis. And if they make a decision, it requires consent and agreement of all the countries involved. I still remember at the very beginning of the SCO, when China is a much larger economy in terms of the comparative weight among the SCO members, China strictly abide by this consensus basis. Now China, India, and Russia and all the other members need to continue to view each other as completely equals with each other, respecting each other. And despite of our differences, we need to manage our best to get onto the same page. And if there is anyone disagreeing with anything, it should not be part of the agreement adopted at the end of the SCO summit of the SCO.
But Victor, you talk of consensus, but India has refused to endorse the Belt and Road Initiative inside the SCO. Does that weaken the grouping's unity, or does Beijing see India's independent stance as manageable?
Well, I hope India will sooner or later come to the conclusion that participation in BRI is in the fundamental interest of the Indian people, because BRI focuses on connectivity, highways, railways, aviation, and financial connectivity, technological connectivity, you name it. And this is, I think, exactly what India needs to further promote its industrialization, manufacturing, and also connectivity within India. So I hope India will put aside whatever differences it may have looking at BRI. BRI is not threatening India. BRI is building up connectivity for the benefit of all the participating countries. And BRI should not be what holds India back. And I hope India will not be the only outlier within the SCO framework, which still does not want to get along with the BRI initiative.
Victor, I think we all know India's stand on the BRI, but let's move to terrorism now and talk a bit about terrorism as well. India has repeatedly raised the issue of cross-border terrorism as well at SCO. How does China balance its deep ties with Pakistan while addressing New Delhi's security concerns, especially after the recent terror attack in India?
I would say China, as a matter of principle, condemns terrorism of all colors, shapes, and forms, wherever it happened. On the other hand, China also calls on all parties involved to exercise their own responsibility. And whenever there is a terrorist attack, we need to exhaust all the investigations to find out the real culprit of any of these terrorist attacks, and not jump into the gun as if, for example, you know for sure which country is behind any particular terrorist attack. That means while SCO was founded with the main aim of fighting against terrorism, terrorism should not be used as an instrument, for example, to accuse another country or interfere in the internal affairs of another country. I hope between China, Pakistan, and India in particular, whenever there is a terrorist attack happening on the Indian subcontinent or involving China, we will be on the same page, condemning the terrorist attacks and work together to cooperate with each other to really get to the bottom of the situation. I'm saddened to see that quite a few Chinese nationals have been killed inside Pakistan, especially in Balochistan, because of the terrorist upside, I think. we need to work together to get to the bottom of this situation and create a situation leading towards, for example, no more terrorist attack of any colors and shapes against civilians or other people in our respective countries.
Victor, Beijing might see this as an opportunity to woo Delhi during this meeting amid the tariff pressure. But why should India trust China economically when the trade imbalance is so skewed and market access so limited? And of course, the bigger issue here is the existing border issue and mistrust over it.
Well, first of all, China is the largest trading nation with more than 130 countries in the world. And for the rest of the countries, China is either number 2, if not number 3, largest trading nations with the rest of the countries in the world. So the reality of China's economic might is real. And I think for any country to disregard that or to dismiss that, it will not be in the fundamental interest of their own economic development. Now, for the border disputes between China and India, allow me to mention, China and India have coexisted with each other for thousands of years. The current territorial disputes were created by the British when they were ruling India as the British Indian Empire. I hope the Chinese nation and the Indian nation will have enough courage and wisdom to put behind the territorial disputes between them and really get onto the same page. Now, working together between China and India will make both China and India stronger, and will make sure that the two largest populations in the world, the two only superpopulations in the world, can manage their bilateral affairs better in peace and negotiation and create maximum benefit for the Chinese people as well as for the Indian people.
Yeah, but Galwan wasn't by the British, was it, Victor? Moving on now, India believes in multi-alignment. You and I have spoken about this in different ways till now. But it's a member of SCO, but also an important member of the Quad with US, Japan and Australia. How does Beijing view this?
Well, China has extreme balance and magnanimity in looking at the situations around it. China wants to defend its own sovereignty and territorial integrity, and China is fully prepared to fight off any hostile forces, whether they are acting in their own capacity or whether they are teamed up together as a bloc or as a group, for example. I hope India will focus on economic development and care about bilateral relations between China and India. And I do hope India will not be hijacked onto the bandwagon of anti-China geopolitical bandwagon, for example, that some other countries are very happy to launch. And they want to make use of India as a pawn or as a proxy, for example, not for the benefit of the Indian people, but most likely for the benefit of themselves. And the fact that the United States under President Trump is applying maximum pressure against India, levying up to 50% of tariff against Indian exports and also labeling Indian economy as a dead economy, is completely showing disrespect for the nation of India. China will never do that. Despite of all our differences, we want to treat India as completely an equal, and we want to get to the same page together as soon as possible, and we want to work out solutions so that we can put our territorial disputes behind them for our mutual benefit. So eventually, it is a decision for India to make, whether you want to be closer or more remote with any other country. But the litmus test is whether India can gain economic benefits from such relations with different countries.
And hence the word multi-alignment, which this government does believe in. Before I let you go, bottom line, if the SCO cannot bridge India-China mistrust, which is huge, Victor, is it just a stage for photo ops rather than a real driver of regional stability?
No, SCO is gaining more and more momentum and is gaining more and more recognition in the world. And if India wants to, for example, be the sole outlier within the SCO framework, I'm afraid maybe history will keep marching on and India probably will be left out in the cold. That's not the best situation for India. I think for India, keeping better relations with Russia on the one hand, with China on the other hand, with the United States on the other hand, with EU, with Japan, is very much needed. But to be alienated from any other country, especially from China, which is already the largest economy in the world today, if we use purchasing power parity, right. And if you believe in Elon Musk, will be twice as big as the US economy by 2050. That will not be in the fundamental interest of the Indian people, especially when China has so much to offer in terms of cutting-edge technology, major breakthroughs in AI, leading positions in semiconductor chips production and R&D, for example. I think it is a dream case scenario for China and India to know each other better, to respect each other, and to overcome their disputes through peaceful means, and to promote mutual benefit for now as well as for many decades or even many centuries to come.
Victor Gao, thank you for that very optimistic view you have, and also thank you for the China perspective.
精彩视频看完了，高志凯教授在本次采访中围绕上海合作组织 SCO 峰会、中印关系、多边合作及全球战略格局等议题，阐述了中国视角下的核心立场与政策主张。我们一起来分析一下：一、中印关系的战略重要性。高志凯强调，中国和印度作为世界上仅有的两个超人口大国，人口超10亿，对自身彼此乃至全人类的发展负有重大责任。面对美国施加的极限施压，中印应加强协调，共同捍卫自由贸易与经济发展权。他指出，中国已成功使8亿人脱贫印度也需持续推进工业化、城镇化，不应受外部势力阻碍。二、上合组织的共识机制以平等原则。针对 SCO 是中俄俱乐部的批评，高志凯反驳称 SCO 坚持共识决策，每个成员国均享有平等权利。中国虽经济体量较大，但仍严格遵守共识原则，尊重所有成员国。他强调 SCO 的核心价值在于通过平等协商达成一致，而非强制推行某一方议程。三、对一带一路倡议 BRI 的立场，高志凯呼吁印度重新考虑对 BRI 的立场，认为参与 BRI 符合印度根本利益，可促进基础设施、科技与金融联通，助力国内发展。他表示 BRI 不构成威胁，而是共赢合作平台，希望印度不要成为 SCO 内唯一的例外。四、反恐问题与地区安全。在反恐问题上，高志凯主张应基于调查与证据，而非直接指责他国。他提到中国公民在巴基斯坦遭恐袭的事件，强调中印巴需合作查明真相，避免将反恐政治化或干涉内政。五、中印经济与边界问题。高志凯承认中印贸易不平衡的问题，但指出中国是130多个国家的最大贸易伙伴，忽视中国经济实力不利于各国发展。关于边界争端，他将其归咎于英国殖民遗产，呼吁中印以智慧和勇气超越历史遗留问题，通过和平谈判实现共同发展。六、对印度多边对齐策略的看法，高志凯表示，中国理解印度与美日澳等国的合作，如四方安全对话，但希望印度不被反华地缘政治议程所利用。他批评美国对印度加征关税，贬低其经济的行为，强调中国始终以平等态度对待印度。七、SCO 的未来与中印合作前景。高志凯认为 SCO 正获得越来越多国际认可，若印度持续疏远中国，可能被边缘化。他呼吁中印加强互信，在科技、半导体、人工智能等领域深化合作，实现互利共赢。高志凯的论述体现了中国官方试图以发展优先、合作共赢的话语框架化解中印之间的战略猜疑。其观点强调经济互补性与多边机制中的平等性，但并未回避分歧如 BRI 边界问题。然而 他对印度不应被美国利用的表述，也透露出中国对印太战略的警惕。整体上，采访传递了中国希望稳定中印关系、强化全球南方国家团结的信号，但实际成效仍取决于双方能否在行动上相向而行。谢谢大家观看，喜欢请点赞、评论加订阅，你的支持是我最大的动力。比心，明天见，拜拜。